This week at the CFS, investing in agri-food systems has been a really important priority of the discussions. We had a super interesting high-level panel on Tuesday exploring the issues, and of course for really good reasons. I mean, if we want to achieve any of our long-term international development goals, the SDGs, food systems, the way we produce and consume food is absolutely central. I mean, if you just imagine, a third of the globe's working population are involved some way in producing and delivering food, and many of those people are the poorest people in our societies. You know, whether that be a small farmer somewhere, or whether it be a women trader, or even a Uber driver here in Rome delivering food. So, if we want to tackle inequality and poverty, then food systems are really central. About a third of the world's population can't afford a healthy diet. So again, if we want to tackle these massive rising costs associated with poor health, getting good healthy food into people is absolutely essential. So for our long-term food security and good nutrition, changing food systems is fundamental. If we think about climate change, a third of greenhouse gases come from the way we produce food. And also food leads to most of our biodiversity loss and uses up most of our global freshwater resources. So there's just these fundamentally big issues that we have to be tackling around changing how we produce and consume food. Now, if we want to do that, getting the investment right is critical. And of course, it's a super smart investment. It's great for our long-term resilience. It's great for ensuring our prosperity in the future. And it's also really critical to our overall long-term security. At the moment, we're losing about $12 trillion a year in the hidden costs of the way we produce and consume food. To make a difference to our food systems, we could probably be spending about 1/10 of that to make a huge shift, a huge transformation in our agri-food systems. But we're not getting anything like that investment at the moment, despite what a good investment that is. So really thinking through how we can reinvest in agri-food systems must be a top-tier international development priority. But to do that, we've got to get a lot more coordination and linkage across all the players. We need to think about how to get climate finance much better flowing into the agri-food sector. We need to be thinking about how we can shift and change the way we're using some of the support to the agriculture sector. We need to be thinking creatively about how remittances can support. And of course, a lot of impact investment is not going into the food system. We need national governments to be upping their game in terms of how they're investing. The international community needs to invest more, and we need businesses to also play their role in this. But for all that to work, there's some really big risks in the system we have to overcome. And that requires this whole idea around blended finance. National governments helping to create an enabling environment. International development banks putting the right sort of investments into the food systems. Bilateral donors supporting with some of the innovative ways they can support financing, and getting all of that coordinated. So that really requires a lot of thinking about what we might like to call collaborative financing agreements, which really need to be worked out at the national level. We've heard this week some great examples of how things really can work when you get this coordination and integration happening. This work, of course, is something that the CFS really needs to take forward. Getting this overall global coordination and alignment is really critical. And this was also a very key message from the Global Donor Platform for Rural Development on their white paper about financing food systems. I think there's also another interesting perspective about this that I'm involved working with, which is sort of futures and foresight thinking. So how do we use foresight to really understand what are some of the long-term risks, but also the long-term opportunities of shifting the way we produce and consume food?